I'm Dan with the George Memorial Library, and today I will give a brief history of the automobile and railroad bridges that cross the Brazos River in Richmond. The Brazos River, which early Spanish explorers called the Rio de los Brazos de Dios, or the River of the Arms of God, is the 11th longest river in the United States at 1,280 miles, from New Mexico to the Gulf of Mexico. It's one of Texas' largest rivers, and sometimes is used to mark the boundary between East and West Texas. In 1821 and 1822, Stephen F. Austin founded one of the first English-speaking settlements at San Felipe de Austin. As the area began to grow and become more settled, boats and rafts were the only reliable mode of transportation across the river. So the people of Austin's colony began operating a ferry. Before and after the Civil War, steamboats were often used to move materials and people up and down the river. Due to fairly regular flooding, slowdowns and other issues often affected the routes along the river. When trains were introduced, they proved to be a more reliable transportation system, and eventually steamboats disappeared. In 1885, a wagon bridge was built north of the railroad bridge. On August 3, 1893, a herd of cattle was being driven across the bridge, and it collapsed, killing 2 African American men and many cows. The ferry continued to be used until 1887, when a collapsed bridge from Waller County was moved to Richmond by wagon and rebuilt. In 1894, a new bridge was built and ended on the west bank at Commerce Street. It remained in use until May 1922, when it was swept away during a flood. A ferry was operated by the county until July 23, 1925, when the new bridge was officially opened for traffic. When the bridge was opened, it was turned into a big celebration. Over 12,000 people attended the day-long event. Free barbecue was served at noon, and local dignitaries spoke. The dedication took place at 11 a.m. From the official opening until midnight, a stream of autos, wagons, and pedestrians passed over the new bridge. After, people settled down on pallets under trees, dozed, and watched a baseball game between teams from Rosenberg and Sugar Land. Rosenberg won 12-6. There was also a cavalry tournament and airplane maneuvers. 2 brass bands performed in the afternoon. The celebration ended at midnight with a free dance at an outdoor pavilion, and Fatty Martin's orchestra provided the music. In 1933, as automobiles began to dominate the roads, paved streets were widened and a pedestrian walkway was added to the north side of the bridge. In 1965, a second bridge was built north of the 1925 bridge, and each became one-way roads across the Brazos. In November 1986, while the bridge was being painted and cleaned, several issues were noted. The State Highway Department ruled that the bridge was no longer safe for traffic, and traffic was rerouted to the 1965 bridge. Plans were made to remove the old bridge and build a new one. Since a large celebration was held at the opening of the 1925 bridge, the county decided to have another bridge party to say goodbye, with the benefits going to the Fort Bend County Museum. On July 14, 1988, the bridge was to be demolished with explosive charges placed on the bridge. Some of the charges didn't go off, and part of the bridge remained standing. 2 more explosions were set off, and a bulldozer was used to shake the remaining part down. The railroad bridge. The Buffalo Bayou, Brazos, and Colorado Railway was the first railroad to begin operating in the state of Texas. the first component of the present Southern Pacific to open for service, and in February 1850, General Sidney Sherman, who was a leader in the Texas independence fight, and others received a charter for the BB&C. Construction began on the line, and in 1852, the first locomotive arrived, named after General Sherman. The expansion of the railroad was stopped by the outbreak of the Civil War and its aftermath. By 1868, the BB&C was having financial troubles, and it was eventually sold off to a new group. They made needed repairs and purchased new locomotives and cars for the first time since before the war. The railroad first used a ferry and inclined planes in order to cross the Brazos. In 1858, a low-water bridge was built and replaced the ferry and was only 6 feet above the low water level. A 50-foot opening was left so steamboats could pass through. The opening was covered by a flat boat attached to the bridge with chains. The boat would then be moved when needed. In order to get over the steep grade, trains had to cross at high speeds. Passengers could opt to stay with the train or exit and ride a ferry across. Because of flooding issues, the train could be out of service for extended periods. In 1867, the Brazos Iron Bridge Association was organized and built a permanent bridge over the river to combat the numerous locomotives, boxcars, and passengers that were dumped in the river from the low bridge. It was completed in 1869. On June 6, 2016, the bridge was damaged by what's known as the Tax Day flood. One of the supports shifted and dropped a couple of feet. The bridge was repaired and reopened on June 22, 2016. Thanks for watching, and feel free to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed the video. Also, if you'd like to suggest any future topics, just put it in the comments below.